But the first thing we got to talk about is because the biggest news that we haven't been able to talk about yet is Kelce dollar signs. So obviously it was initially reported as an extension and then got switched over. But Travis Kelce received his pay raise that made him the highest paid tight end in the NFL, which of course all of us would believe is well deserved. Thought it was an extension that would keep him through 28, but it's essentially a 2-year deal that is only through 2025, but gives him the pay raise that he so deserved. So after hearing all the numbers and details, Dale, you can kick us off. Do we still see Kelce in a Chiefs uniform 2025 and beyond?
Honestly, y'all, not to be like the negative one, but I think you all have been on the positive side of this and, hoping that he'll be here. What, probably like at least 4 more years, right? But just seeing that it wasn't an extension through 2028 instead, that was going to give me assurance like, oh, he's for real. Seeing that it was like, we're just gonna give you more money because you actually deserved it. Really, we don't want to do you like that. They keep on coming at us saying that you're underpaid at your position. The Chiefs keep on doing this, finding ways to fleece guys and everything like that. So it was like, you know what? You did your part. You've been rocking with us ever since you got into the NFL. You stayed committed to this team through the ups and downs. So it's like you deserve this money. Being a guy who had 7 straight seasons for 1,000+ yards, this season only being 16 yards away due to one game being out of injury. So it's like it's time to just go ahead and be like, hey, let's go ahead and boost the market. It's going to be you who boosts the market. Everybody else after that, they got to figure out with their teams. But I say all of that to go back to my original point, saying it worries me a bit because I think they're just I think it's conversation there where it's like, hey, Trav, how long do you really think you have? And I think he might have some, thoughts himself to where it's like, I might want to go out at the top of my game. A lot of these guys, talk about it, even in other sports as well too. Charles Barkley actually spoke on it on Club Shay Shay. He said it out there like, hey, if I'm LeBron, I will probably want to try to retire as soon as possible, just because I want to stay on top. You want to stay at the top of your game and be known like he completed his whole career as this high level player. Do those thoughts come in at some point? Kid from Cleveland Heights, being put into work, had trouble in college, was able to overcome all of that, went to the Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid changed his life. You start thinking like maybe he wants to really bask in, the outside success that he has outside of football. Just adding on to that, having a good time with his brother on their new hype show and just enjoying life like that. It's like, man, he don't have no kids. He ready to have his own kids as well too. I think he did right in this NFL career. Seriously. A lot of people, have kids, get that wife early on, making a lot of money, feeling good, got the finest girl, all of that. Kelce just going through. I love the game of football. I'm producing at a high level every year. You see me dabble in these different relationships. Haven't had kids, but his focus been on football. Feel like he thinks it's time for him to probably, worry about himself, have fun himself. But of course, I don't mind being proven wrong on this as well too. Like I would definitely want more years on your contract if you want to do that. If you want to come back, I don't think he goes somewhere else to try to figure it out and try to play with anyone else. He loves Kansas City. He done built a home here. He's having fun with his best friend Patrick Mahomes. He has his long life mentor Andy Reid who took him in. It's like this is just the perfect story for him. But pretty much, I think it's safe to start saying like, hey, it's probably out there. It's a possibility, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and I say, seeing like you said, since it's not an extension, not giving them time, not keeping them till 2028. I think it's something that we've all noticed. It's kind of like writing on the wall here. And I'm not going to say he's going to be ending his career. This might be the last one, but it's definitely something that's a sign of him probably rounding off his career. Kind of just doing kind of like just a final couple runs with Pat to see what he could get. But I'm not surprised, being that Kelce has spoken about several things like this, wanting to be into the media. Him actually dating Taylor Swift now, kind of getting with one of those other type mogul type stars. Um, just later in his career, you can kind of just see he's kind of fit for a different lane, especially when it comes to the TV presence and just being a media presence. So it's something that he's definitely dabbled with. I feel like this contract just kind of submits it for us. Like, oh, okay, Kelsey's probably going to be done here in a couple of years, so we got to be finding that guy. So I just think this is just kind of letting us know we went to the tight end well this draft. So we may be going to the tight end well here in a couple more years. Because like I said, I don't think we get instantly supplement that production. I think it's going to be a multitude of guys that have to come and take the bulk of that production when you lose a superstar of that magnitude. So I definitely think it's different, and I don't know if we'll see him in a uniform past 2025. I don't think he plays with another team, but I definitely, I'm not sure if we see him in it. I think we do see him in probably 1 year or 2 years, but I'm definitely sure he's looking at the end of the road somewhere. He sees it for sure, just being the details of this contract and what they were kind of doing here.
Right. I think that's my sentiments as well. First, the excitement that, he's going to be here for at least 4 years, but it's a guaranteed 2. And of course, we don't see Travis going anywhere else. I think the one thing we thought might happen is if Jason continued to play in the NFL, maybe they try to make that partnership work. But Jason obviously retired this offseason and immediately has a job with ESPN. So I think that probably has a factor in Travis as well. And the 2 years kind of sunk in for him to kind of contemplate how much he really thought he had left. And arguably, unless he had his injury at the beginning of the season last year, he probably would have reached all of his milestones, and maybe these doubts, I guess is the best way to say it, wouldn't have popped in.
Right.
But obviously history played out the way it did. But I think it was kind of writing on the wall that even the Chiefs thought there was some sort of a decline in his production. And decline is in quotation marks because he still was Travis Kelce. And then the postseason, he was just back to peak form. But obviously, if he didn't ask for more than 2 years, he must think that he doesn't have that much left in terms of like what more to prove, what more to do. We talked that the Jerry Rice records are still on the table. He can still catch up to some of those. We talked that Andy Reid might be trying for the Don Shula record of NFL wins. So that's something that the head coach can work for. But in terms of Travis, yeah, what more do you have to prove? You're already going to be a game show host pretty soon. You have a very successful podcast. All the clips coming out the last couple of weeks are from their New Heights Live that they did on the Cincinnati campus, and he's just loving life right now.
Right.
It's clear that, if anything else, Travis Kelce is a showman, and he likes putting on a show and he likes entertaining people. And the NFL is one way to do that, absolutely, but it's also a very niche audience, and you don't get to be 100% yourself. Andy Reid loves people to be authentic and loves personality showing. So maybe that's the reason why that Travis is able to do this and branch out and sees that the future is not just within football for him anymore. And now that the Taylor Swift saga is on with as well, he sees that there's more to life than just football. So for right now, it's clear that is Travis's number one love is football. But at this point, it's okay to admit that it's not his only love, and that he's got he's got some history ready to go, and he's planning his future on not just related to football. So when you're as entertaining as Travis, he can get away with that. And he clearly sees that there's expansion to him and his future that isn't just within football. Obviously, we'd love for him to play for as long as humanly possible, but we also want him to be able to live his life and be a functional adult and be able to move around and not be, physically impaired for much of his life as well. And Dale, you mentioned, his brother has children. Maybe that's on the horizon for him as well. If that's something he's interested in, maybe Travis is set to be the uncle of all time. Who knows? But I think we've got to, it's okay to admit that his career could be coming to a close. And it doesn't mean that we're rooting for it or trying to retire him. We're just going off of how he feels.
Right.
It was ridiculous to think he was retiring in this last off season. But now, after 2024 and 2025, we'll have to see the results of the 2025 season to see if any of that changed his mind. But I mean, it's okay to admit that his career could be winding down, and that's okay. But the main crux of it is that he is still the best tight end in the NFL.
Right.
And why would you want to retire when you're on top like this? And the Chiefs still see value in him to rip up the contract that he already had and pay him even more money, guaranteed money, than he was already getting. So
I just think we got to take into consideration that, he did have that injury, towards the end of camp, right? And in preseason. So he didn't do much. He was out the first game of the season as well, too. So just looking at that, your body is having a wear and tear and everything like that is probably coming to your head where it's like, okay, I'm coming back this season. If they complete the 3-peat, y'all, I think it's like, I'm gonna finish out that last year. I'm good because we didn't talk about it before. Mahomes is catching Brady. Kelce at this point, he had tied Gronk, the person that he's competing with for the best tight end of all time. And I think they respect each other enough to where it's like they can be 1A, 1B, and they don't care. This is not like basketball where it's you have to have either LeBron or Michael Jordan. So in this case, it's just it is what it is. But I think what it looks like in the consensus, we saw it's not an extension, it's just a pay raise. We thought with at that point, maybe we have him to 2028. As we see now, that's not the case. So,
right, yep. Anything else you guys got to say about Travis before we move on?
Wishing the best on his endeavors. We love him.
Absolutely.
Right.